Let's take a look at how to manage multiple style variants in motion with whileVariants. We have a purple box this time, and it has two states. It can be turned off or turned on. And here's the code for it. We have an is-on piece of state here, and then we use this to animate the opacity and the scale. So you can see that if it is on, we have an opacity of 1 and a scale of 1, and if it is not on, the opacity goes down to 0.3 and the scale 0.8. Finally, when we click on this box, the state is toggled. We're going to use motion's variants to clean up this logic here and also make it a little bit more reusable. So at the top of the file, I will define a constant called, let's call it variance, but this could be named anything that you want. And so we will recreate the possible variations here, which is on or off, indeed on and off. So let's accept that, but we are going to match what we had here. So what we animate is the scale and the opacity. But if it's on, we want an opacity of 1, and if it's off, we want 0.3. And then for the scale, we want 1 if it's on, and 0.8 if it's off. So now I have captured the expression of this variance, and we could have more than 2 variants, of course. And now I can make this variance available to the motion component by passing the variance attribute. So down here on our motion.div, we will pass a variance, which is where the name matters. And here we will pass our variance. But remember, this could have been called anything. So the nice thing is now we don't have opacity and scale separated. Instead, they are grouped together in a style object. And so instead of doing 2 checks for is on, I can get rid of all of this. And just like Copilot suggests, if it is on, we want the on variant, but if it's not, we want the off variant. So you can see these are strings that represents the key of the variance object. That feels much cleaner, and it's going to work exactly the same. I can toggle my box off and back on. Okay, this is nice, but only mildly useful. So let's keep iterating on it. I'm going to add a third variant here, and we'll call that one highlighted. And for that variant, we are going to change the background color to, let's say, tomato. And let's also change the scale to 1.2. So now we have 3 keys in our variants, and we can combine them however we want. All right, so let's say that when the box is on, we want to also apply the highlighted variance. So what we can do is have an array and pass multiple strings like so. And so on and highlighted will combine, and you can see that our box has become tomato colored and the scale went up to 1.2. And now if I click on it, it's going to be turned off, and so only the off variant is applied. On has both on and highlighted. You can see here that the styles from the highlighted and on variants have been merged together. We have the opacity of the on variant, but then we have the color of the highlighted. Now, both the on and highlighted variants were targeting the scale transform. And you can see here that the scale is 1.2. And the reason for that is not that highlighted is defined after the on, but it's the order in which we pass the classes here. So if I was to move highlighted before on, like so, you can see that now the scale of 1 takes precedence. And if I go back to highlighted after on, we are back to scale 1.2. You're not just limited to the animate property to apply the variance, and you can use anything else, like for example, whileHover. Let's try that. So here, instead of combining on and highlighted, I will just have on. And then whileHover is where we're going to, remember it's a string, pass highlighted. So now our box is on, and so it has animate on. And when I hover, it's going to be highlighted. And when it's off, well, now it's a combined of off and hovered, but when I get away from it, it's going to be just off. So again, the combination of styles is happening, but the decision logic is now shared with the whileHover gesture. Motion variants aren't only useful for style management and reusability, they also come super handy in orchestration of animation that have nested children, as I'll show you in another video.